Hi, I'm Lindsay Simons, and I'm the host of Creating Community for Good podcast. I'm also a seasoned consultant in the field of nonprofit fundraising. And so I have this podcast because I'm committed to figuring out how am I sharing my own resources and those who are around me in building the sense of community and offering an open source learning platform. I also am deeply curious about social sciences and psychology and building community. So that's the essence of this podcast. Now, what you're about to watch here on YouTube or in video is a segment of the podcast. You can actually find this podcast, Creating Community for Good podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Tune in on Spotify, Apple, or just watch it on the website. Know that I have taken diligent notes and we've got show notes on every one of my podcasts. But this one in particular has a number of questions that you might use for self reflection, as well as a few examples of exercises in how you approach the job hunt. So while this episode is about the job hunt, it's actually more so about human experiences, grit, moxie, courage, vulnerability, stamina. We talk about what happened to these two professionals who are experienced fundraisers in the field. They were laid off during COVID, and through their journey, they landed in their dream jobs. So tune in and listen up as we talk about what happened, how it happened, and what the results were. So where they were and where they are today. I think, again, that this might be of interest to folks who are beyond the nonprofit space and also perhaps not even looking for a job. But as I said, thinking about grit and the human experiences, strategy, tactics, emotions, processing. So here we go.
I thought I would be there for a very long time, much like I was at CCS for more than 10 years. The ramp up of what we were going to do with this foundation looked like it could be somewhere I was at for at least 5, if not maybe 8, 10, 12 years or for a long time. And it wasn't all boom, then the pandemic happened, but it was somewhat boom, the pandemic happened. We were getting ready to not run the foundation in a different way, but restructure a little bit. And along the way, I found we had repositioned some of the folks who were reporting to me in the team that I ran so that I could perhaps take on a different role within the foundation. But then, boom, the pandemic came. Boom, there I am with a director title and no direct reports. So as we start to have to shift around the way that healthcare works and really reevaluate our resources, it necessitated the elimination of my position. So wasn't expected, and I found myself sitting on the sidelines. But again, couldn't have asked for a more cooperative organization than the one I was working with. They treated me with a tremendous amount of dignity and respect, and gave me some time to kind of sit back and collect myself and get ready for this journey that we're going to talk about here, which is, a humbling one to go on. And it was my first ever true job search. And I don't know that I would have selected to go into it on purpose, but where I'm sitting at now, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit about where I'm at, Lindsay, but how it all went and what I can look back on now. I think I learned more over the 6 or 7 months that I was job hunting than I did in maybe the last 6 or 7 years. Such different things, because life had been all fundraising and philanthropy and volunteers and networking and meeting. Suddenly it was about a whole different thing that I just really needed to learn.
Huh. Any reflections on that, Bill?
I'm nodding the entire time. I think that this experience highlighted so many personal so many personal reflections that I'm kind of stunned by that whole thing here. Sorry, I got to take a step back, because it really wasn't just about finding the work. It was really just a personal journey. I am very fortunate to have had the same experience Ryan did when I was let go. It was done with a lot of grace, dignity. I don't think that many people can say that. Yeah. But I was really taken care of. And it was done with, I walked away from it going, okay, this isn't necessarily about me. This is about the environment that we're in, and they are treating me the way anyone would hope to leave an organization with not wanting to leave. But I think anyone that goes through an experience like this, as I said before, it is it takes a personal impact on you. And that's not including how you feel as a professional, but also as a human. And certainly during the pandemic, there was a lot of human things going on outside of our professional lives. I'm really grateful, just as Ryan is, to have at least been given a lift up as we entered the job market.
If you had just been told, let's say, I mean, now layoffs are still happening, even though I was a little bit rosy and at the beginning and things are moving upwards, nonprofits are still doing some reshuffling here. And there are still layoffs happening today. There are organizations that are folding, some that are merging with others, which I celebrate a lot. If you were just told this week, today, whenever you're listening to the podcast, whoever is listening, what advice would you have to that person who was just told, okay, we're going to have to lay you off and you're going to have, maybe it's a 2-week severance or whatever it might be? Share with me, what are your thoughts? Like, what would you do as the first step?
The first step, I'm not going to have, like, nothing is popping in my mind of like the first step. So I hate to choose the sentence of like the corny one of it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
But you need to start telling yourself right away that it will, because I think what our pandemic life, which is changing again, we're slowly coming out of this shell. But your point is exactly right, Lindsay. There's still a lot of organizations that have to catch up and do their restructuring now. It's not like they're ready for life right now. So telling yourself that it's all going to be okay, because the journey is hard. There are a lot of competitors right now. I'm not the most talented fundraiser in the world. I just happened to find the right place and the right connection. So competition's stiff. Thankfully, our profession is filled with a lot of wonderful people who are highly skilled. And you're going to lose out on a lot of opportunities that you want badly. So just walk away from each of those. I literally started at the end of each one. My wife at one point was like, this is not healthy. I had an Excel spreadsheet of like all the different jobs I'd applied for, interviewed for. Like a data nerd that I am, I was tracking it all. She's like, this is not healthy. And I'm like, I'm not doing it as like a negative, look at how many things I lost out on. It's like, I'm trying to remind myself everything that I learned from each of those along the way to get ready for the next one, to be even better for the next one. So if you're a fundraiser and whether you're on the operations and data side, or whether you're on a frontline fundraising person and you're operating a portfolio, or if you're a manager, you have to apply the science and the way that we do our job to the way you're going to approach this job search, because there's so much competition out there. Just like when we were going out and making solicitations and making people to participate in our causes, we weren't the only ones asking those folks to make gifts. Mm-hmm. Right now, we weren't the only ones asking for the same job. There were a lot of people doing it. So I'd say it's going to be okay. Take a deep breath, but put your game face on, and a humble, true one as well. Like, this is not the time for acting. This is the time to really, and Bill, I'm going to be quiet here and let you say what you need to say, because I think you're going to have something really great with that. But like, the sit back and who are you, and approach this job search and the jobs that you're applying for of like, this is who I am and this is the right job for me. May not be the perfect one, but at least know that to the best that you can find right now, this is the right spot for me. Because you'll be able to go at it with a gusto and not have to act. And worst of all, not get into the job and say, oh, this wasn't for me. But yeah, Bill, I'm sure you've got some great insight on that.
Well, I mean, I like I said, I did a lot of personal reflection on this, and you try to look for things that inspire you. And if I were to look back at my past self and just say, all right, it's coming, and you get the word that you've lost the job, I think I approached it as, and there's this quote is like, what if everything you are going through is preparing you for what you asked for?
Yes.
So it's that okay, you have this big obstacle in front of you. Take some patience and really start to line up how you're going to approach it, just like you would for any ask, right? You don't just go out and say, "Hey, you want to give some money?" People don't just go, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, here's my wallet." No, you have to prep for it. You have to plan for it. And so the first thing that I really did was, first, as Ryan said, humble yourself, right? And also be really open. You have no idea what opportunities are going to come before you. If you want to do the ratio of yeses to nos when you make an ask, or whatever you want to use as some sort of metric, know that you are going to have to ask a lot. So, how do you do that? You're only one person. So the first thing I really did was, one, I need to activate my network. And if I don't have a network, man, I will talk to anybody in any industry and just have a conversation. And sometimes I would have conversations with people that had nothing to do with fundraising, and I had to explain to them what fundraising and mission-oriented fundraising is. But that's okay, because every conversation was an exercise. How do you make your presentation of yourself? How do you present yourself? There were some that I was like, I'm having a bad Bill day. Bill's not feeling so great, and my conversation stuck. But as time went on, my talk track became much more smooth. I could really point out to exactly what I'm looking for, or the people that I know. Now, I just happen to be in a town in Denver that's relatively small. And eventually, after all of the conversations I would have, I could easily go, yeah, we have a mutual connection. Oh, you like to do this? I like to do that too. These are the things that sort of bind us and bond us. And it's not just me advocating for myself. It's now those connections I've made. And they start advocating for me. I've gone down through, 5 people deep of rabbit holes and just on an initial conversation. So I think that's part of the process, is just, okay, pick myself up and let's just start talking to people, because that's what I like to do, and that's what I do. And once you do that, there's some sort of organic, you get the ball rolling, and things start to present themselves, and your name starts to pop up, right? Because anytime we're going for a job right now, you are a stack of papers. How do you identify yourself out of that stack of papers? What do you know? What buttons can you push? And that legwork that you do behind the scenes, behind the resume, behind all of that, that's what's really going to move the needle.
I love that, Bill. And something that I heard in you, you just articulated it now, but I also observed it when you and I met for coffee the other day, was starting with the common ground. So it's, what do we have in common? How can we jive or connect in any way? And now this is what any fundraiser is going to do as well. So you go into your potential donor's office and you see a baseball bat on the wall. You start talking about baseball, the sports, your family, whatever it might be. And that was a skill that Chris Looney taught me my first week at CCS. So shout out to Chris, because he was all about, baseball, but also, it's so important to bring that layer of human quality to find that common ground, much more than trying to get to the bottom line of what the agenda is. So finding that point of connection and then offering something of value. So offering connections, offering resources, and even just offering the baseline knowledge of what you're doing and what you're looking for. To just have your talk track, as you called it, or your pitch, your case statement. You could have your own case for support for yourself. And to know what that is, being clear and concise, that's actually an offering to somebody else, because then they can figure out how to do something with it. When you're sort of fumbling around, even though I love that you said stay open, but with a few key points that can be memorable. And then the third element that I heard you say, and that I've been really tracking in my podcasting, is it's the common ground, it's offering something of value, and then it's leading with curiosity. So it's continuing the conversation with a question or deep listening. So modeling listening, hearing what somebody has said, acknowledging that, asking them to go another step deeper, and, being open. Tell me more about what you just said. That's a phrase that I really like a lot, and I've seen work very well in this podcasting. Just as I am learning to interview, I've been doing this podcast for just over a year, and I just did a reflection of my journey of podcasting, and it's those three elements. That's interviewing guests, but that's also interviewing prospective job providers. It's interviewing and talking with prospective donors. It's communicating with your volunteers. It's that same arc of human connection. It's that common ground, offering something, and then leading with curiosity. So I love that I heard you say that too, Bill, and it kind of sparked a light in my mind to say, oh yes, I'm seeing this everywhere. Once you see a pattern, then you just start to see it everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
mean, I out on that.
Yeah, we're all nerds here.
With this latest valuable episode, we'd love to thank you for joining us on the Creating Community for Good podcast. If you found today's show valuable, simply visit our website, creatingcommunityforgood.com, to leave a review, as well as to get access to additional resources and relevant links from this show. Stay tuned for more episodes.